Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. The coin shortage continues. Let's explore. Whoever would have thought that what you see before you would be considered eye candy? It's pocket change. We see it every day, or at least we used to see it every day for a lot of us out there. But in society, less and less people are using cash. But what has happened recently, derived from the coronavirus pandemic, has led to a new appreciation for the next precious metals, and that is essentially mostly copper, from what you see here. Because yes, this is the last vestige of hope in terms of the United States government not debasing its money. Well, technically currency in this case, but there is a monetary aspect to these coins. And I'm going to get into the coin shortage here momentarily that is pressing on and continuing months into this pandemic here. But nonetheless, it is these coins that you see before you that are mostly copper. That's right. Everything from the $half all the way down to the nickel, which is 75% copper. Those coins contain that metal. And was only until after 1983 that this coin was debased. Essentially, it is now copper-plated zinc. And they used to look like this, and you can see kind of a distinct difference. They're actually heavier before 1983, and about half the mintage of 1982 were copper-coated zinc, and the rest are copper. But nonetheless, other than the cent, all these other coins have maintained their composition after 1964. That tells us something, and they're very much in demand these days. Several members of the community, including Stacking Nerds, sent me this story about how Kroger is halting the use of coin change at its stores in response to a shortage caused by the coronavirus pandemic. And the Federal Reserve had a statement about it, that particular situation, back in June. And I did a video talking about how, coins are now the new toilet paper, which was a big, heavy demand. So temporary coin order allocation in all Federal Reserve bank offices and Federal Reserve coin distribution locations, it was put into effect in the middle of last month, which is about a month ago now, and is continuing to this day here. The COVID-19 pandemic has significantly disrupted the supply chain and normal circulation patterns for U.S. coins. In the past few months, coin deposits from depository institutions to the Federal Reserve have declined significantly, and the U.S. Mint's production of coin also decreased due to measures put in place to protect its employees. Federal Reserve coin orders from depository institutions have begun to increase as regions reopen, resulting in the Federal Reserve's coin inventory being reduced to below normal levels. While the U.S. Mint is the issuing authority for coin, the Federal Reserve manages coin inventory and its distribution to depository institutions, which includes commercial banks, community banks, credit unions, and thrifts. Through Reserve Bank cash operations and off-site locations across the country operated by the Federal Reserve vendors. The Federal Reserve is working on several funds to mitigate the effects of low coin inventories. This includes managing the allocation of existing Fed inventories, working with the Mint as issuing authority to minimize coin supply and constraints, and maximize coin production capacity, and encouraging depository institutions to order only the coin they need to meet near-term customer demand. I'm going to give you an anecdotal example of that here momentarily. Depository institutions also can help replenish inventories by removing barriers to consumer deposits of loose and rolled coins. Although the Federal Reserve is confident that the coin inventory issues will resolve once the economy opens more broadly, again, this was a month ago they're saying this, and the coin supply chain returns to normal circulation patterns, We recognize that these measures alone will not be enough to resolve near-term issues. They continue to this day. So on June 15th, Reserve banks and Federal Reserve coin distribution locations began allocating coin inventories to ensure a fair and equitable distribution of existing coin inventories to all depository institutions. On June 15th, the Federal Reserve banks and the coin distribution locations began to allocate available supplies of cents, they call it pennies, but technically it's cent, nickel, dimes, and quarters to depository institutions as a temporary measure. The temporary coin allocating methodology is based on the historical order volume by coin denomination and depository institution endpoint and current U.S. Mint production levels. Order limits are unique by coin denomination and are same across all Federal Reserve coin distribution locations. Limits will be reviewed and potentially revised based off of national receipt levels, inventories, and mint production. Fascinating indeed. And so that is where that statement is. And I saw it anecdotally at a Walmart when I went to go purchase something. They were telling me that they may not have enough change to give me back. And was I okay with rounding up to the next highest dollar amount? I was like, well, I'd rather get the change back if I can. And so they looked in there and they found it, the exact change I got back. But I looked in the drawer and there was very, very little in there to go around. So I did get every cent back that I was owed. And they had closed off the automatic checkouts to any cash orders at all. And it was only through the lines, and there were long lines. It was kind of a pain in the butt. First world problem for sure, but still shows there is a shortage of change. And the teller said she was very lucky to be able to have the exact change to give me. They had some quarters, but not some of the smaller denominations like the dime and the nickel out there. So this particular thing here, it has the Federal Reserve made that statement, and here's what Jerome Powell said about it. What's happened is that the partial closure of the economy, the flow of coins through the economy has it's kind of stopped. He said during a virtual hearing with the House Financial Services Committee on June the 17th, the places where you go to give your coins and get credit at the store and get cash, folding money, these have not been working. Stores have been closed, so the whole system has kind of had to come to a stop. The Federal Reserve said in its statement that it is working with the U.S. Mint and Reserve banks to address the issue through a strategic allocation. But that was over a month ago, and we're still seeing it today. It has been quite something else for sure to witness with this shortage out there that is continuing and pressing on. Even in smaller communities out there are noticing this shortage of these beloved coins that you see before you here. It brings a larger conversation that has been going around social media about how, and conspiracy theories about how they're doing this on purpose to lead us to a cashless society, rounding up to the next dollar, things like that, a way to somehow circumvent the system here, what have you. And though I don't necessarily subscribe to those conspiracy theories, I believe this really is a unique time. There's a lot of things that are happening that are obviously mucking up the system, so to speak, and how we get change and everything like that. But you would think by now they would have found the answer and have distributed the coins. But now we're starting to see shutdowns happen in some of these Sunbelt states. California is starting to go back to a shutdown status. Texas and Florida are at risk for more restrictions out there. And so that could lead to potential further disruptions in the supply chain. So that's something we have to take into account and consider. But the larger conversation, I think, is very important. I know I, for one, am a user of cash. I use it all the time. This is why I've got so much pocket change lying around here. I save this stuff and cash it out for other expenses. And, essentially this is in some ways replaced my golden envelope challenge. But I take this stuff and cash it in from time to time and use it towards the purchase of other items and coins, gold and silver, precious metals. But, I'm thinking about maybe holding on to some of this stuff and out there and seeing what happens, because you never know. You never know how rare this stuff may be in the long term if we continue the path we're going down. Now, more than likely, things are going to come back to normal soon. But the larger conversation is that, yes, people should use cash more often because you can't trace it. You can't trace cash. And pocket change is another example of that. And so there you have it. We'll see how this plays out. But the coin shortage does continue. There's no end in sight. And as more businesses are opening, there is going to be the more need for pocket change out there to give back to folks. And when it's not there, people are going to get upset, like I was, especially if I would have been shortchanged from that transaction that I made at that day. There you have it. Post your thoughts below. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for watching. And let's pretend that this is a like button. And I want you to do this to it. Rub it gently and then press it. But not so hard that you destroy it like the old man of the mountain was. That no longer exists. That thing fell down. Multitude of gratitude.